Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment. I am your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back, everyone, to the YouTube channel, and this is my spoiler review for episode 3 of the new Disney Plus series by Marvel Television. It is Daredevil, Born Again. Again, this is a spoiler review. If you have not seen this, pause this, hit the thumbs up button, because that would help my YouTube channel grow. Go and watch this amazing series. Come back and let me know what you think about this show, this episode, and this whole series in the comments below. But again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. Episode 3 continues on with the trial of the White Tiger as he's on trial for murder of an undercover cop. Throughout this episode, we will show how amazing Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, how he's really good at being a lawyer and what most of his daily routine is like during the day, which he's usually doing his job as a lawyer, going to court, going on trial, defending his client. And, to me, this was something I feel like, She-Hulk did, but I think they didn't execute it the way this show is when it comes to Daredevil doing his regular job, which is being a lawyer. And obviously one's more openly public about being the She-Hulk. She's more open about it, that hey, I'm a lawyer and I didn't ask for this stuff, versus Daredevil, who obviously is not the Hulk, doesn't have gamma ray in him, and obviously he's a vigilante. But I think this episode reminds me of a lot of episodes in She-Hulk, but I think this one was so executed better with this. Now obviously the advantage of this is a character that they're introducing that people of the diehard fans are more excited about to see, with somebody like White Tiger and the other person who becomes the White Tiger, which is the niece of Hector. And that's its advantage. And I'm not saying that She-Hulk was a bad series, but if I thought about what people were talking about when they didn't like it, and I believe, to me, this was done better than She-Hulk doing these type of scenes. And I get it. Again, two different people, two different personalities, two different backstory. But it's not really that important about how different they are and who they are as an individual. But I'm saying, as far as the dialogue, the story, the plot of one particular episode, which just this whole episode was literally about him just doing his job, literally. We didn't see him fight. We didn't see him do Daredevil stuff. This ain't nighttime. This is daytime, right? And he was playing by the book, playing by the rules, basically, just like She-Hulk did. And so my point is that the story of it was much executed better than a lot of the episodes that had She-Hulk did when she was in court. Okay, so yes, there's only 3 episodes right now as I'm recording this, but the 4th episode's coming out on Tuesday, obviously. But still, I see why, and I understand. And the reason why I feel like this one episode is executed better than all the episodes of She-Hulk for season 1, and I'm just talking about her being in court is that she's good at it, but I think the way they told the story was a little sloppy, a little like confined. Like, what I'm trying to say is they were trying to tie in every other story from the MCU and try to tie it in with She-Hulk, because obviously this character is the cousin of Bruce Banner. So you have to, in their mind, in the TV writer's mind, and I'm sure in Kevin Feige's mind, that they had to, at some point, find a way to bring all that up and see She-Hulk's reaction or her view on the events that her cousin was a part of in other MCU movies, of course. And I think I remember Kevin Feige, I think the director of She-Hulk, and I'll get back to this review, I promise. The director of She-Hulk stated that even Kevin Feige said, you don't have to have like that big ending, like, to tie into something, something like that. Kevin Feige was more like, hey, you don't have to go this route. You can end this season 1 in a different way. It doesn't have to be like this. And I can't remember, but just look it up, everybody. But whatever it was, they felt like the writers and everybody on that show for She-Hulk I think they felt like they needed to, or maybe they wanted to, obviously. But this episode proves that maybe Kevin Feige saw that, and I think this is where I believe Kevin Feige really put his 2 cents in. He stepped in and made sure, like, okay, guys, if you're going to do some episodes where Daredevil's just being himself, Matt Murdock, as a lawyer, you might as well just stick to what needs to be focused within the confine of this show. I think She-Hulk, to me, they were trying to tie in other stories from other Marvel films and stuff, which I believe that was Marvel Studios, and I believe Kevin Feige was wanting that to happen to achieve that. But obviously, there's been about some backlash on it, and obviously we've seen now through announcements, presentations, that they're going a different direction, doing a different route, and approaching these shows and specials and movies in a different way now from what they were trying to do from She-Hulk, Moon Knight, WandaVision, etc., etc. So the reason why I'm bringing these up, because again, this was such a well-told story for one episode so far of Matt Murdock just being a lawyer, trying to play by the rules. For example, he had a witness, and obviously his witness didn't really help, right? Because they gave him the stuff that he's addicted to, doped him up. They secretly and safely got him to the courthouse, and when his witness saw the fear that the cops put, the fear in their eyes on him, he weaseled out and messed up everything, right? And then we see, again, we're seeing Matt Murdock say, okay, now he has to change his strategy as a lawyer for his client, right? And we see that. And, through also, we see like Mayor Fisk and Vanessa Fisk have this struggle, because we see in this episode too that a lot of the thugs, the other crime organizations, they're kind of like going out for blood, trying to take over, because Mayor Fisk, as he said, like, he's put that behind, he's not doing that no more. But his wife Vanessa feels like there should be some order, or there would be too much chaos. But Mayor Fisk, believes that they need a little chaos so they can have a new order, new rules, new guideline, new leadership to follow and be disciplined in the way he's done it. And we see how he does that at the end of this episode, of course. And so we don't see Kingpin very much, but you know, he messes with the media. So remember, the daughter of the last reporter from the Daredevil Netflix show, his daughter, who is like a independent journalism but does like a blog, you know, she gets called back up and she gets to interview Mayor Fisk. So he's using he's using the small medium and the young people. That's why he also has Daniel, because if he gets the youth to like him, he thinks that this is the way to teach the younger audience, the younger voters, like this is how life should be. You know, maybe because he knows that the people around his age, the traditional voters or taxpayers, they see through him. They know that his history, and we're seeing this battle of it. Now, this all connects to what Matt Murdock's doing. Matt Murdock he's for some reason not wanting to be Daredevil. He's not wanting to put on the suit. But with this episode, we see the struggles and the way he helped win the court case for White Tiger. And it was a lot of work. And he started playing a little dirty. Now, this is nothing new from a typical lawyer. If you're a good lawyer, you're going to pull out all the stunts. And when one plan doesn't work, you make a new plan and you go for it. And so we see that, and you know, we see Mayor Fisk wanted to get rid of the vigilantes, and they got to be stopped to make the world better again. And I feel like, too, they did tie this in. This is where, this is the reason why I brought up She-Hulk, is I feel like this story of the idea of the government doesn't want superheroes or vigilantes to stop the crime. They want to be the ones to decide what's a threat, what's not the threat, what's a crime, what's not a crime. And this is Kingpin just being the villain in his own way, of course. But we're seeing Matt Murdock realize, okay, like, even though he did all this, things still hit the fan. Shit hit the fan, basically. And it's going to get uglier. So, when I told you guys earlier that I felt like the season 1 for She-Hulk, they try to tie in so many other Marvel stories in the cinematic universe. Instead of tying in one, they're creating a story that I feel like will go beyond this episode, beyond the Daredevil Born Again. And it's the idea, because spoiler alert again, really, really spoiler alert, is if you have not seen Captain America Brave New World, I'm about to spoil the main thing, is that at the time, President Ross wanted to recreate and bring back the Avengers, but under the government of the United States, right? And obviously that didn't work out. But then if you watch the Thunderbolts trailer, which this is where I'm coming in now, I believe the story that we've seen in this is going to spill over in the Thunderbolts, because now you have another person, Vanessa Kirby, I believe that's her name in the Marvel, and she was in Wakanda Forever movie, but she's talking about there's no Avengers, we need the Avengers, where are they, we need to take over this, blah blah blah, right? And that's how you get the Thunderbolts. So that's a tie-in. To me, they tie it in one story that I feel like that's going to connect to other big Marvel films. Instead of trying to tie in a Marvel movie film into a show, they made a story that I feel like the Marvel movie, which I believe will be the Thunderbolts, is going to tie in to that Daredevil Born Again story. Because the idea of like the Thunderbolts look like they're going to take place in New York. This place is taken in New York. And, the Avengers tires do exist now and all that. So this is pretty much they took the idea of like, let's just do a whole episode of Matt Murdock being a lawyer, but let's tease the idea that there's a bigger story to this, and all these events are happening in New York for some reason. Now, obviously, Captain America: Brave New World took place in Washington D.C., but that's just them going. That's the guy who's going to make it all around the world internationally. But the Thunderbolts, and I believe this episode, are going to have a big connection, is my basic point. Because if you look at this episode, after they won this case and White Tiger was free, he got shot in the head as Mayor Fisk was pretty much talking about why, vigilantes need to be stopped. Why the cops, the FBI, the army should only handle stuff like this, is because of that. And we see some guy who dressed up like the Punisher shoot White Tiger. So, and that's how that episode ends. So what's very interesting about that too, and I just want to keep on talking about this, is we see this happening. We see Matt Murdock win. He followed the rules. He played by the rules of what you can do and cannot do in court when you're a lawyer and you're defending your client. And it's still, after all that, White Tiger still got punished. No pun intended. But he got what they wanted to do to him anyway. They would have done it, having him in prison, locked him up, and got him shot or murdered, basically. But Kingpin found a way to do it without getting his hands dirty. And we're going to start seeing that now. But to me, I like the idea of they build a story that can spill over in the Marvel films. So basically, I believe now that the Marvel shows on Disney Plus are not going to tie into the movies more. I think the movies are going to tie in stories from the show. And I think that's the best route. Even if people don't watch the show, it won't confuse the viewers of the audience when they're watching that Marvel film in a movie theater, because they can always choose to watch the show on Disney Plus anytime they feel like they want to do it, and it won't confuse nobody. And I think that's the better route to go. So I like what they're doing, because we're getting this idea of the people versus the superheroes, the vigilante story, and I feel like that's coming. And it's not a multiverse story yet, but they're foreshadowing the multiverse story in this episode as well. And foreshadowing's not a bad idea. And you're saying, well, so where's this multiverse story at? It's this whole story of this is a multiverse. I think this is the beginning of Avengers Secret Wars. Because if you remember in the Captain America Brave New World, the leader said, like, what we're going to do when other worlds come to invade our worlds, other multiverse verses come over and want to fight us, battle us, dominate us, right? This kind of in a way ties into Kang the Conqueror, this ties into the Fantastic Four movie where you see in the trailers, you see Galactus. This is going to tie into where Doctor Strange is off. This is going to tie into where Wanda's at. And just because Daredevil doesn't understand what's going on, right? And he's not aware of what's going on, but he will be aware of it. And right now, the MCU Earth 616 is the beginning of this. It's the governments all over the world against superheroes and vigilantes. And when their guard's down and there's no Avengers, they're kind of screwed. When another Avengers, let's say there's another Avengers coming, right, from a different multiverse, and they're not the good Avengers. Maybe pretend there's the evil bad Avengers. Imagine Captain America as Captain Hydra. That's the stuff I'm talking about. Like, I think that's the story that's leading it up. And this whole episode was just kind of the beginning of planting seeds stories of Avengers Secret War. That's where I got out of this. And you're like, whoa, how did you get out of all that? It's because you have to see the idea of right now in the MCU on Earth 616, they don't want Skrulls. They're tired of the Avengers. The government is. The people want Daredevil. The people want Spider-Man. Some people don't. Right? And in the MCU right now, they're trying to figure out who's going to be the protector. The every government around the world? Or is it all the Marvel superhero / vigilante characters? And I think that's what's going to be. And this is just the beginning of it. And that's why I like this episode. For example, we saw the White Tiger is his niece, which she becomes the White Tiger. Her name is Angela de Torres, and she becomes it. So this could be the Young Avengers stuff, or maybe, I was thinking why do they have to have two different Avengers, right? Like when you think of the Avengers, you think of Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, Black Widow, and Vision, if you remember it from Age of Ultron. But regardless, just from the first Avengers movie, and then you go to Avengers Endgame, right? Okay, the OGs are kind of gone. Yeah, Sam Wilson's there. And you got, Hawkeye. You got Bruce Banner. Okay. You got Nick Fury. Okay, fine. You got Thor. You still got Thor. That's fine. But I remember I liked the idea of having two different Avengers. But what if instead of just having the Young Avengers and then the main Avengers, it'd be kind of like DC. The best way to explain it, in DC Comics, you have the Justice League and then you have Teen Titans. Instead of treating the Young Avengers like Teen Titans, they might as well be the new Avengers. Can you imagine if Angelia del Torres becomes the White Tiger and Spider-Man's the leader of the Avengers? That can be I think that's the route I think they're going to go with now. I think originally they were going to have two separate Avengers, but I believe now I just believe that they're just going to make, when they do the Avengers, I think it's going to be the Young Avengers, but don't call them that. Just be the newest members, and they're just younger. They're younger, basically. And they are, that's one plant. They kind of planted the seed with that. And it's gonna be very interesting to see that. I think that's the better route. Like yeah, because then you can just mix them up with Thor, Captain America, Sam Wilson, and the new Falcon and everybody else, because it won't be too confusing about which one is the actual Avengers. No, it's just they are the Avengers. And I think that's the route, and it makes it much simpler for all audience, whether you're a hardcore fan or not. It would be still simple and not confusing. That's what I think they're going with this, and I think that's the route. Like example, Daredevil can be an Avenger, but does he need to be the Avengers? Like always in all the Avengers movies? Yes and no, depending on what it is. But maybe there's an Avengers film where White Tiger, the niece, and Spider-Man are teaming up with like an Iron Fist. You never know. There's so many ways you can go with that. And that's why I think they're kind of setting this story up with Secret Wars. And it's very interesting they chose Daredevil Born Again for that, and particularly this episode. So that's what I like about it. Now, let's talk about the Punisher. I don't think that was the actual Punisher, but I think the corrupted cops are using the Punisher symbol, and they're going to try to frame it on him. And it's going to be up to Daredevil and Punisher to team up. Like Matt Murdock's going to have to put on that suit, and Matt Murdock's going to have to put on his other suit and prove to the world that, the Punisher, Frank Castle, is a changed man. Because I think the idea is, how does he grow? How does he move on from the grief that he's been dealing with? And I think that's the story route they're going to go with him. And I bet you they'll hint that stuff on episode 4. So that's what I think. And other than that, I think that I like watching Kingpin and Daredevil struggle, be who they truly are inside of them, and what they really want to do, and how they really want to handle business. Which some is good, and obviously is bad, evil bad, and I like that. So to me, this deserves a 1 out of 10. This is a 10/10 episode. This is a banger. This is a 10 out of 10, because they didn't do too much and they didn't give you too less about it. But this story was so intriguing and very interesting and exciting, because if you're gonna do a show, especially in superheroes, right? And like, okay, if your character's a lawyer, like, how do you make a lawyer? And they did your typical basic lawyer show, but mixed it in with Marvel, and it made so much sense, and it gets you intrigued, gets you on the edge of your seat. And the dialogue game on this, every actor and actress that was in this episode knocked it out of the park. I mean, my God, it was so good, and this is like the type of, they did so well. I feel like you can follow every word and every phrase they say, and you're just following along. You're going, and you're just more curious of what they're gonna say next. What else are they gonna say? What else are they gonna claim? What are they thinking? What are they gonna do? They had all that, and it was just fun to watch, and I loved it. And they gave you a true story about a man, you know what, the Hector part, and then he died. He got shot and killed. But here's the thing: his reason on why he did it is the most heroic thing. This is something that Sam Wilson would agreed with. This is something Steve Rogers would. So I'm saying both Captain Americas would agreed with him. T'Challa would have agreed with him. Thor would have agreed with him. Spider-Man would have agreed with him. Iron Man. I'm telling you that this is what a superhero thing does. And, he's not going to get his flowers, but man, this was the show. And to see White Tiger now in the MCU, and I'm telling you, when the niece gets a little bit older and she gets to wear that medallion, you're gonna see White Tiger at her best. Like she's gonna be the bad one. She's gonna be the fan favorite. Like I'm telling you guys, buckle up. Like this, where they're going with this is crazy. And for using this episode was so good about it. It's gonna make sense. I'm telling you, what a great episode. I loved it, and we're seeing new layers to these characters that we haven't seen for years, especially in the Daredevil Netflix era. Like this is important because now you're reintroducing these characters and you're giving them a brand new, fresh breath air of life into these characters. And that's what they just did in this episode. That's why it's a 10 out of 10. This is why it's a banger. This is how you tell superhero stories. You give them reason why, and you give the audience a reason to care, a reason to pay attention, a reason to have interest in other Marvel films. And this is what they need to keep doing. So this one is a banger. I loved it. But that's my review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe. Hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys and peace out.